let me make a little bit of history of what drove us here. The mission of NADRE, stakeholders, objectives, work plan, expected outcomes, responsibilities, and then the website and manual. So we will start providing you links and references to NADRE. So everything started 2.5 years ago in Dakar, Senegal. Dr. Margaret actually attended a workshop co-organized by 3 projects, SAIGEA, which I've already heard, Tandem, and MAGIC, 3 European funded projects. And this was a workshop on promoting open science in Africa. And the outcome of the workshop and the discussions I had with Dr. Margaret at that time was a decision to hold a similar event in Ethiopia in the year. And this actually happened in November 2016. We co-located with a large visibility, a big event organized by ESC. We added an extra day where we run a SAIGEA workshop named Open Science for Research Without Frontiers. And we did this in Addis Ababa. And again, we ran events and we got outcomes and actions for the future. At that time, I was presenting the 3rd eResearch Hackfest that we ran in November 2016 in Lagos, Nigeria. And there was so much interest that we accommodated at the very last moment the participation of 2 people from Ethiopia to Lagos, Nigeria. They spent there 2 weeks, and as I showed you in my previous presentation, they implemented the first pilot of the open access repository. And then second outcome, there was an interest in running the eResearch Hackfest in Ethiopia, and we did it. In February 2017, we came here for 2 entire weeks, and we ran this intensive training event. And the outcome was that several services and applications were deployed and developed. Some of them were the very first prototypes of today's NADRE services. Then Ethernet joined the UbuntuNet Alliance. They proposed to host the annual event of the UbuntuNet, which is called UbuntuNet Connect. And this happened in November last year in Addis Ababa. Ethernet hosted the UbuntuNet Connect conference. And the conference was preceded by a workshop named Towards an African Open Science Platform Infrastructure Framework. And again, events and action. The action was that the Minister of Education attended the workshop, and he was so interested that he announced later on the news the decision to create a national academic digital repository of Ethiopia. And this was actually the time when the NADRE concept started. Then we discussed to raise awareness about NADRE and to launch the initiative as a kickoff conference. And this took place in February this year, again in Addis Ababa. This was the NADRE kickoff conference. By the way, all these are links. So you can, when you will get to the presentation, the presentations will be on the agenda. You will be able to follow the links and go to the agendas of those events and get all the presentations, all the information. So the NADRE kickoff conference was held in February with the participation of international experts. And after that, GIZ opened a tender for a service provision for the actual implementation of NADRE. I bid for the tender, and actually my bid was, the bid of my team was won the tender, and the actual implementation of the NADRE started. The terms of reference of the consultancy includes 4 workshops to be done at 4 focal points in Ethiopia, and Gondar, Aksum, Jimma, and Dilla were selected as the points of these 4 workshops, and this is why we are here for the second workshop. Between June and now, another important event, a kind of NADRE side event, that took place in Gondar. This was led by Dr. Paolo Budroni from the University of Vienna. And the workshop was on research data stewardship and e-infrastructure for Ethiopian stakeholders. This was an event more focused on legal aspects of open access and open data, on data management plan, on data stewardship. And again, this is all the slides, all the presentations are stored on the agenda system, on the very same on the same event management system where you can find the agenda of today and tomorrow. So, NADRE mission. The mission is to provide researchers, lecturers, students, and stakeholders from outside of the academic world access to all researchers' works published by Ethiopian universities and research institutions. All public and private universities, as well as research institutions, will contribute to the NADRE and will provide all citizens access to it. In order to complement and feed the NADRE, each Ethiopian university is encouraged to build its own repository and to provide the Ethernet access to that university and to provide the Ethiopian Ethernet access to that university repository in order to harvest and amalgamate publications from these repositories to the central national repository. Those universities that are not currently able to establish their own repository, this is, as we heard this morning, is not the case of Aksum, but it could be the case of other universities, Ethernet will provide support to deploy their own institutional repository. However, each university will be responsible for the curation of content stored in their own repository. So, NADRE has different stakeholders. The Minister of Education for the policies, as we discussed. GIZ has provided funding so far. And then a virtual cycle where Ethernet, ESC, and the Ethiopian universities play the important roles. So what are the objectives of NADRE? To increase the access of academics and citizens in Ethiopia and worldwide to research works published by Ethiopian researchers at one of the Ethiopian universities or research institutions. To foster the dissemination of research outcomes and make them, as well as their authors, more visible inside and outside the country. And to spread completed research to other corners of the country to allow other researchers to build on the concept of sharing and reuse. We will start with thesis, dissertation, journals with publications, but there are discussions, as you have seen, to move to data and other components of the research life cycle. And all artifacts will be published under open licenses. Licensing, you will see in the next presentation, is a very important aspect because I want to underline once more, open data, open access doesn't mean free data, free access. So license is the way to protect IPR and authorship and visibility of the Ethiopian researchers. And all the artifacts will be tagged with digital object identifiers, you have seen already, because the value of using digital object identifiers. So the work plan, we had 4 activities. Prepare and contribute to the implementation of the conference with pre and post conference workshop. This actually was done even before the start of the consultancy in February. Elaborate the training plan. This was done. The training plan includes these workshops and also a series of webinars, remote web-based events. And tomorrow I will tell you how you can attend the virtual room and participate to these web-based webinars after our tour in Ethiopia. So starting from the beginning of the following week, not the next one, but the other one. So there will be, there is a calendar of webinars. Everybody is welcome to attend, to provide, to raise issues and to get solutions and support. Conduct a workshop series. This is the agenda been defined, and this is what we are doing right now, and we will complete this at the end of next week. We will be going to Jimma beginning of next week and to Dilla at the end of next week. So 4 workshops in 2 weeks. And then establish a NADRE website and manual with all the necessary information to let librarians, IT staff, to learn on their own pace and use NADRE services. Not only experts, users, but also end users, students and researchers. A lot of training material has been already created and made available. I'll show you how you can access this and actually use this. So tomorrow you will play with hands-on using material which is already available on the web, on the NADRE website. Okay? So the expected outcomes, the kickoff conference, this was done. All universities should have their own digital object identifier prefixes. We will talk tomorrow about DOIs. So even if the University of Aksum wants to keep their own institutional repository, we have documentation and support to let the University of Aksum tag every single record with a DOI for discoverability, citability, findability, and reusability. All researchers, participants have their ORCID IDs. We have seen the Vice President proudly showed his ORCID ID. Tomorrow, every one of the tutorials is to register to ORCID, and all of you will be guided to create your own ORCID profile. Why this? Because you will be able to connect your publications, your works stored on the NADRE repository to your ORCID profile for maximum visibility, to increase your visibility. So train university librarians and library ICT staff in the use of maintenance of repository. Tomorrow we will show you how to do this. You have basically two options. Either people will submit documents to the NADRE repository, or they will submit it to your repository, and then you have to put in place a procedure that periodically, every night, for example, pushes your records to the NADRE repository. And tomorrow afternoon, there will be a special advanced tutorial and targeted to IT staff, especially programmers. So tomorrow afternoon, we will show how to use a computer program to publish data on NADRE, so that you can run your computing program here, take the records from your repository and publish them on the NADRE repository on a cron job basis. Training plan. This basically has been done. We will write the reports from these events and from the workshops, and NADRE website and manual. This is done. The website and manual have been released. Of course, this is in progress because during the webinars you may suggest changes or additions. So, responsibilities. NADRE is a joint project with different stakeholders. So each of the stakeholders has responsibilities. So these are the responsibilities of Ethernet: to provide a space on the cloud, to provide technical support, to do the programming necessary for the NADRE to be fully accessible in operation, to manage the creation of DOI subprefixes, to inform university and research institution how to request and obtain a DOI prefix, and to train local IT staff. We are in the process of handing over all this to Ethernet. There will be a session with Mario, Yuel, Mekwanent, Elena later this afternoon. We are handing over all this, and we have heard this morning from Elena that Ethernet is providing cloud-based resources for the NADRE services already. To coordinate between universities and research institutions, to advise users how to work with the NADRE, how to get ORCID ID, and how to link research works to the ORCID profiles. You will see this in actions, and then there are also procedures to do that. To organize workshops, and actually this is what ESC has done, is the main organizers of these 4 workshops, and I think that others will be needed in the future, and they will be organized. And of course, ESCA by mandate should report towards the Minister of Education, which is the owner, the real owner of the NADRE initiative. Universities. What are the responsibilities of the Ethiopian universities participating to the NADRE project? Those universities and research institutions which already have a repository, Axum is one of them, will provide access to it in order to accommodate it within the NADRE repository. So all the procedure to move, to copy records from your repository to the central one. To disseminate among researchers the standards necessary to accommodate research works to the NADRE repository. So all the documentation, you will be able to reuse it and to share within your university with your users. To promote the creation of ORCID IDs among all the researchers. To manage the issuance of DOIs to tag research documents. You will see tomorrow how to do this. And you should do this already for the 1,600 books that you mentioned this morning. You will be tagging with official DOIs and move to the central repository. And to handle the license issue with the researchers. This is very important. We will be discussing licenses tomorrow, but this is very important that you inform your users, your researchers, about the importance of assigning licenses to any research product that will be stored on the open access repository to protect the investment, to protect the intellectual property, and to protect the authorship of Ethiopian researchers. To run the plagiarism check, this is very good because if everything is on the open access repository, it will be very easy to spot duplicates. And of course, librarians will be in charge of checking whatever is committed, uploaded before making it public. And last but not least, to curate their institutional repository. Those universities which do not have institutional repository, they can use a subset of the NADRE Central one, or Ethernet may host an institutional repositories at their premises. So if you don't have the manpower or the skill or any other problems, Ethernet is committed to provide you resources to host your own repository, not in your universities, but at Ethernet premises. So, website and manual. What I'm showing you now is the NADRE website. This is the entry point to all NADRE services. Tomorrow I hope you will bring your laptops, your computers, because this should be in your bookmarks, because this is the entry point for everything. And this is the website. nadreweb.ethernet.edu.et. This is the entry point. This is the website of NADRE with everything. It already contains, but it will contain everything related to the initiative. Tomorrow we will browse this and we will go to the different pages. Okay? Second most important link, you can access the link I'm going to show in a moment, also from this side, clicking on documentation. This is the documentation. This is the entry point of the documentation. As you can see, well, it's very difficult to see, but you will see tomorrow in detail. The documentation is divided in two sections. One for users. Users mean students and researchers. And for experts. Expert means librarians, IT staff. Okay? So here you can find presentations, videos, documentations, exercises, everything.